Hello everyone and welcome to pre-season testing for Grand Prix Manager. The inaugural season is so close to starting, but we have one important activity to do before we get to the very first round of the season, and that is decide who is going to be in what tier of this championship. There's two tiers. The top tier, GPM1, that is our F1 equivalent, and GPM2, our lower series. Now, we have a total of 16 teams signed up for this, and there's only room for 8 full teams in the top series of GPM1. That makes up for 16 cars. The final 3 places on each grid will be given to the top 3 drivers from each GPM2 race. So even if you do end up in GPM2, you still have a chance the chance to race in the top series and even win, because this series, it's going to be competitive, and I certainly would not rule out the chance of a GPM2 team or driver winning a race in this championship as the season goes on. Unlikely perhaps, but certainly possible. The way we're going to decide who goes into which series, because it's going to make a big difference in the day for how each team's seasons go, will be through this preseason event. Now, as mentioned, we have 32 cars. Now, that is why we actually have to have the 2 tiers, is because we have too many entries. And that also is a problem for pre-season, because we have too many entries to put them in one race. So instead, we're going to be putting them in 2 races, the top 19 shootout and the outside the top 19 race. So, and then who goes in what category will be decided by each team's average finishing position between their 2 drivers, with the top 8 teams going through in GPM1 and the lower 8 teams going into GPM2. Now, of course, any team that has both of their cars in the top 19 shootout is likely to make it through. They are looking good for the series, but not guaranteed, it has to be said. Likewise, any team with 2 cars in this first race could well be in trouble and is unlikely to make it into GP1. But any team with a split car, 1 in each race, really, it is all to play for. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it all works out. And let's not waste any more time talking, let's get to what you're all here for, the racing. Well, the grid is in position then, the red lights are going to come on, and we are racing, and we're underway for the first pre-season race here. This decides positions 20th through 32nd, and it's Kyle Kirkwood for Fingal Motorsport, which will lead us on to turn 1, ahead of Alex Polo for Canadian Racing Lakenhouse. Villa Gomez in 3rd position there, immediately having a little bit of a look at Polo's Canadian Racing car as they head up into the S's for the first time. Very high speed through here, and George Russell, who had problems in qualifying for Nexus Racing, just like Kevin Estre and also Max Verstappen, having to make progress forward in this race, and already up quite a few positions in this one. As mentioned, 13 cars in this field, so every position crucial. If you want to be in GPM1, you've got to get a good result in this opening race. And there we see Alex Plo looking for the lead as they head through the chicane for the first time. Big moment through the grass there for Kyle Kirkwood, but he holds on to that lead position for now. Now, Fingal Motorsport, one of the teams with 1 car in each series, whereas Canadian Racing have both their entries in this series, so they really need Alex Palou to perform at the very front here, and they need Mitch Evans to get up there too if they want any chance to get into the automatic qualification spots for GPM1. George Russell, meanwhile, for Nexus Racing, started all the way down in 12th in this particular race, and he's already up into 7th spot on lap number 1 here, making very, very quick progress. Behind there, you've got Juan Pablo Montoya ahead of Scott Dixon, Pato O'Ward, Max Verstappen not making the progress he would have wanted to make on the opening lap so far. But up at the head of the field, it is Kyle Kirkwood who leads the way ahead of Alex Blow. Villa Gomez and Miata both into the pit lane. Damage on lap number 1 for the 2 of them. Big drama for those teams, both of those teams. Well, in a tough spot now, it has to be said. At least Villa Gomez has a teammate in the top 19 shootout. Miata has both himself and his teammate at Suzuki X-Star Racing Project in this one. Verstappen is his teammate who has made the move there up in the 7th spot, so not too bad. George Russell already at the 5th spot there, gaining all those positions on lap 1, plus the issues for those cars ahead of him now puts him on the back of Sebastian Vettel as they head into the high-speed left-hander. The Muscle Moose Racing Team worldwide entry of Sebastian Vettel loses out that position to George Russell. Muscle Moose is another team with 1 car in each series, so if Vettel can get a top 5 finish here, realistically that puts them in the shout for a chance in GPM1. We've got a side-by-side battle there. Hocevar and Russell all the way off into the grass there. Bounces back onto the racetrack. Hocevar holds on to that position for now, and he will remain ahead for the time being. In 3rd position, an impressive start so far from the Repsol Peugeot driver. Carson Hocevar, another driver who really has the destiny of their team in their hands in this lower category race. If he can get a very good result on this and his teammate manages to back that up in the top 19 race, another team that could very well make it in to GPM1. George Russell up into third position now. Alex Palou in second, Kyle Kirkwood in third for now. Sebastian Vettel on the back of Hocevar, looking to try and make something happen here, but not quite able to do anything into turn number 1. George Russell already on the tail of Alex Palou here. We're only on lap 3 of 20. There is a long way to go in this race, and Russell is right on the tail of Alex Palou. Going to look to the inside here, going to try and be later on the brakes, and he gets the move done nicely. And that is good stuff from the Nexus Racing driver of George Russell. It's fair to say we expect Nexus Racing, based on their speed so far, to be one of the GPM1 teams, and even perhaps one of the teams fighting out for the championship. But with Russell's problem in qualifying and Lando Norris, his teammate, in the top 19 shootout, not actually qualifying that well either, it's going to be oh so important for them to do a good job. As two drivers into the pit lane now, that's Alex Palou and Carson Hocevar, as George Russell moves through into the lead of this one. That is for effectively 20th position, and a worst finishing position of 20th should, in theory, put you in a very good position to have a chance of getting into GPM1 on the average finishing positions of your two drivers, as Palou and Hocevar do come out of the pit lane now. Palou, massive hit to Canadian Racing's hopes here. Likewise, of course, for Carson Hocevar and the Repsol Peugeot team. Alex Palou down into 8th position here. Going to have to do a lot of a recovery drive as they head onto the main straight now on lap 4, and they're into the pits again. Both Palou and Hocevar back-to-back laps. They're pitting together once more. Dramas early in this one as Villagomez is on the tail of Ritomo Miata as they head into turn number 1. Villagomez and Miata, two drivers who had issues on the opening lap, pitting from the lead group. And let's see what happened between Hocevar and Palou. This is the first incident between the two of them. We're in the final sector here, heading into the downhill high-speed right-left chicane. Curved braking zone, very tricky through here. Hocevar right on the tail and into the tail of Alex Palou. That's how they both picked up the first bit of damage, likely front wing damage for Hocevar, and even perhaps a puncture for Palou. And it's going to be in the same part of the track. It's going to be the same incident. It is the same incident again. That's not a replay. That has happened twice. Hocevar twice in that corner has misjudged it, gone into the back of Alex Palou, and that could be oh so costly for both of those teams in their dream of being a GP1 locked-in entry. As now we see Sebastian Vettel going down the inside of Kyle Kirkwood. That's for the second position there. The Muscle Moose Racing team, another team that needed to try and get all they can out of this one. They know that they have a chance. They've got a driver in that top 19, but their teammate is Jack Aitken, and he is starting towards the back of the top 19 field. In fact, I believe he's starting in 19th, so he's going to have his work cut out there as Ritomo Miata is going to make a cheeky double overtake into the high-speed left-hander there on Kevin Estre and Pato O'Ward. Pato O'Ward, they're driving for the Go-Kai Twin Blade team, another team with one car in each race. Kevin Estre there, another one in that mix, in the same boat. Going to have to try and make a move here on O'Ward, not quite able to do it. Villagomez right on his tail as well. These teams all seem to fit into a sort of generally the same group of teams, as we do have some manufacturer teams, we do have customer teams in this series, and then we have teams like Leighton House, like Go-Kai, like MTV, that are doing everything themselves. They're building their own engine, they're building their own chassis, everything is done in-house, and they haven't sold off their engines. Kevin Estre makes a beautiful move there around the outside of Pato O'Ward to make that pass done. They haven't sold their equipment to anyone else, so they haven't got any extra income for this season, as Villagomez now trying to follow through on Pato O'Ward, not quite able to do it. Whereas there are some teams, Nexus Racing is one of them, who are a manufacturer team. They not only have made their own stuff, but they are selling it to other teams as well, so that's giving them a bit extra income for this season. There are also customer teams to notice. At the moment, we've got Sebastian Vettel in second, Kyle Kirkwood in third. Both of those are using customer engines. In Vettel's case, for Muscle Moose, it's the customer BMW engine, whereas for Kirkwood and the Fingal Motorsport team, it is the customer Nexus engineering engine. As we now see in fifth place here, another very much do-it-yourself team. It is Mitch Evans there with Ritomo Miata right on his tail as they head into turn number 1. It is going to be Miata down the inside and through into 5th position. That will be a net 24th overall at the moment for him, but him and his teammate both in this race, currently running 4th and 5th, 23rd and 24th as things stand for the Suzuki X-Star Racing project. That's most likely, if not definitely, not going to be enough to get a locked-in spot into GPM1. With that, the top 8 averages will make it through, and there's at least 2, maybe even 3 teams in the top 19 shootout with both drivers in that top 19, so that's those teams guaranteed to have a better average just by default, as will any team at the moment that is got one car perhaps even slightly behind the 2 Suzukis and one car that will be in the top 19. That will be enough to jump ahead of them. So Suzuki in a rough spot at the moment. Of course, the issues for Verstappen qualifying Miata on lap 1, holding them back here as we see a battle going on between Rafael Villagomez and Pato O'Ward. Uphill O'Ward back ahead of the late house of Villagomez as they head into the hairpin here. This is the final corner before you sort of really get setting up the final sector of the lap. And now we see this is where we've had incidents already today, and Villagomez does clip the back of O'Ward. Let's hope they've both got away with that one, but I did see a puff of smoke, which could be bad news for both of these teams. Villagomez will go to the inside of O'Ward there. O'Ward very wide through the final corner. Is that a sign he's got issues? So I would not be surprised if one, if not both of these, dive for the pit lane here as they head off the final corner, and it is going to be Villagomez and O'Ward. The Mexican standoff has ended with no winner, as both drivers end up in the pit lane. Carson Hocevar and Alex Palou, who have had their fair share of dramas in this race, now up into 8th and 9th positions. Hocevar really needs to get a move on here. Palou, I fear for the Canadian racing team, settling into a position where they, like Suzuki X-Star Racing, are naturally in a troublesome spot where they're not going to be able to qualify in. Kirkwood down the inside of Vettel is going to get that move done for second place. These 2 cars and 2 teams that have another driver in the top 19. As I say, Canadian Racing now in a tough spot like Suzuki. Both their entries in this race, they needed to maximise their outcome from this, and at the moment Palou down in 9th spot, but going to the inside of Carson Hocevar. Kevin Estre being a bit of a blockade there for those 2 drivers, and Palou, a brave man to have Hocevar back behind him after what has happened earlier twice in this race. As they head with the chicane, can Palou make a move on Estre? It looks like he's not quite able to do it on the MTV racing driver. Palou in a tough spot here, needs to get everything out of it, and he is going to go to the inside now on Kevin Estre. And next up on the road actually is his teammate Mitch Evans. So as things stand, this is a 25th and 26th overall for the Canadian racing team, which, as things look at the moment, could end up being the lowest average overall. As behind them, Hocevar trying to follow through on Estre as Palou swaps positions with his teammate, as the magically missing curb on the inside of the first apex on that chicane there is making an appearance, or their lack of, I suppose, as it's a lovely glitch that we have to deal with around this racetrack that occasionally rears its head. As there we see Evans now with Hocevar on his tail, and this is a brave moment. We've got a Canadian racing car ahead of Carson Hocevar into this part of the racetrack. Looks like they have just about avoided any dramas there. Hocevar, though, you can clearly see is desperate to make this move stick on Mitch Evans. Going to look for the inside of the final corner of the lap. Just about gets an overlap there. Evans playing it safe there, knowing that things are not going well at the moment. Canadian Racing, as things stand, are not going to be a GPM1 team, sadly. Likewise, Suzuki X-Star Racing project, it seems. And Hocevar has still very much got Repsol Peugeot's chances of a GPM1 spot on his mind. So he's making aggressive moves here and having to do just that to get as many spots as quickly as he can. As up at the front of the field, it is going to be George Russell for Nexus Racing. Started down in 12th position for this one. He's going to cross the line in 1st position. That will be 20th overall. George Russell has given Nexus Racing their best possible opportunity, considering the circumstances, to qualify into GPM1. Kyle Kirkwood doing a similar job there for Fingal Motorsport, as will Sebastian Vettel in 3rd position. The top 3 really spread out towards the end of that race. I think naturally this sort of part of the field just found some gaps between them and went about it. Sebastian Vettel there in 3rd place out of Max Verstappen, who started towards the back of the field as well. Only P4 for him in his Suzuki, with 4th and 5th in this race. It's not looking good for Suzuki X-Star. They will likely not qualify for GPM1, nor will Canadian Racing. They're the only 2 we can be certain of just yet. As we look over to the starting grid for the top 19 shootout, and it is Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz on the front row. Give you a quick rundown of the top contenders there. So you see on pole position a Trackhouse car. We hadn't seen one of them yet. We hadn't seen a Fast Formula Racing car. We haven't seen a West Sussex Racing car, and we've got 2 of them right here. The second of the Fast Formula entries here, and you see why I say that I'm confident in saying that Suzuki and Canadian are unlikely to make the field now, if not definitely won't. We also have Panfera Autosport. Both of their cars are in this race. We see there the teammate to Carson Hocevar, Yuki Tsunoda, in the Repsol Peugeot towards the front of the grid. He will have a chance. Juan Pablo Montoya finished at the back in the outside of the top 19 race. His teammate Antonelli there, just starting behind the top 7, I should say. Then we have Lewis Hamilton and Brawn, another team with both of their cars in this top 19 race. Pierre Gasly, teammate to Kyle Kirkwood at Fingal Motorsport. The Leighton House there of Paul Aron in 11th position. The second of the Panthera Autosport cars lining up in 12th position. That's Pascal Wehrlein, and he's just ahead of the second of the Trackhouse Racing cars in, that is Scott McLaughlin in the second entry there. Behind him, we there see a familiar sight, and that is a Nexus Racing car. Let's see if they can make a similar performance there. Lando Norris lining up 14th on the grid for this one. Behind him is car number 14, and that is Fernando Alonso. Behind him, the Gokai Twin Blade entry of Gabriel Bortoletto with Sergio Perez just behind him. Then at the back of the field we have in P18, and that is Ayumu Uwasa for MTV Racing. He's going to have to make a lot of progress to give himself and his team a chance. And same goes for Jack Aitken lining up in 19th. Both of those drivers with decent teammate performances in the first outing, but to get a GPM1 qualification are going to need to make a lot of progress in this one to jump ahead of some of those teams who are in a much better position, it seems. As the far red lights are on then, and we are racing and run away. This race will decide who is in GPM1, and it will decide who tops pre-season testing. Charles Leclerc leads into turn number 1, but Carlos Sainz sticks a wheel down the inside there. Leclerc forced high and wide, Carlos Sainz to the lead. Behind him, that's Charles Rainford looking for the inside line, and Colin Turkington as well. The two West Sussex racing cars follow through Carlos Sainz, and Leclerc drops to P4. Awful start for the Trackhouse Racing driver Hulkenberg side by side there with Oscar Piastri as they head down into the high-speed left-hander. Antonelli just behind them. Piastri is sending it to the inside, and he will get that position done. Antonelli looking to follow him through, and he will do just that as they now head towards the downhill braking zone into the chicane. Antonelli's not stopping anytime soon. He's looking for a move on Piastri. He has to back out of it though. Knows that he has got to get a result of this. Cannot afford damage, especially this early on in the race. Lots of drivers all over the road through the chicane. Norris up to 11th spot already. 3 places gained for him. Good showing from Nexus Racing already in this one. And that's Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez. And you see lots of drivers further back in the field just trying to get into the rhythm of this race safely, avoiding any issues. Fingers crossed for everyone that they will get through this opening lap without any dramas. And at the front of the field it is going to be Carlos Sainz that leads the two West Sussex racing cars. We can now comfortably say at least that the West Sussex racing cars as a team are looking the strongest so far. Fast Formula Racing there are in the lead, and Hulkenberg down in P7, not too bad for them. Charles Leclerc P4 at the moment for Trackhouse, and McLaughlin further back in the field, his teammate in the mid-pack will have to scrap for every position he can get. Carlos Sainz in at turn number 1 ahead of Charles Rainford there as mid-pack, and in fact at the back of the pack we've got issues. Sergio Perez for Brawn, as well as Fernando Alonso in the pits, and one over driver there as well, all with issues towards the back of the field. That's not what they want to see. Brawn GP were coming into this with a good chance with both cars in this race as Sonoda makes a dive on Nico Hulkenberg, but it's entirely possible that with 2 cars in this race you still may not manage to qualify if some of those drivers who had teammates in the first race put in brilliant performances. Now it has to be said, so far the top group is dominated by teams that have both entries in this, so it's looking pretty good for those that have 2 entries in this field at the moment, as Gasly now on the outside of Nico Hulkenberg and Lando Norris. Going to quite get an overlap, not quite going to do it there. Norris in P10 for now, but now on the back of Pierre Gasly looking to make another manoeuvre in this race. Oscar Piastri in 6th spot. Yuki Tsunoda making another move up in this one, up into 6th spot. And this is one of those spoilers that could potentially cause issues for some of those teams like Brawn GP, like Panthera Autosport, who have got both cars in this race, but potentially looking like they may not get the best results possible for them. Teams like Repsol Peugeot, if Tsunoda can put in a good drive here, can definitely mix things up, as can the Nexus Racing car of Lando Norris. Lando Norris making good progress as well here. And with George Russell's overall P20, he really is in a position where it all now falls on Lando Norris. His teammate has done the maximum he could do, and the pressure is very much on him as Piastri now falls victim to Nico Hulkenberg. Another case here of 2 drivers battling both of their teammates in this race. Piastri has his behind him, Hulkenberg has his ahead of him. Both of these drivers, I think it's fair to say, thinking about the big picture there, not racing too hard, not risking too much. Lando Norris behind them, probably not quite with the same attitude. He knows he needs to make these positions as quickly as he can. After qualifying, they were put in a tough spot with Nexus Racing, one of the teams who we were expecting to be towards the front in this series. It's worth mentioning Nexus Racing, as I mentioned in race 1, they are a manufacturing team, as is West Sussex Racing. They are the factory manufacturer for BMW Power. That BMW Power also powers Muscle Moose Racing and also Fast Formula Racing, so keep an eye on those teams as well, as they effectively have slightly better financial situations to start this series off with. Tsunoda now on the back of Antonelli in 5th position. Now this is a battle for 5th and 6th spot. It is Tsunoda down the inside on Antonelli. Antonelli's teammate dead last, 32nd overall. It's going to be near impossible for Antonelli to manage to qualify into GPM1 for the Adidas Racing team. He needs to win. That simply, he needs to win to have any chance, and as things stand, he is going in the wrong direction at the moment, as Norris is the next 2 past Piastri. Piastri fading down the order just a tad here in the Panthera Autosport car. That is one of the cars that has got Goodyear tyres on it. Worth mentioning that we have 3 different tyre manufacturers in this. Goodyear, they are the softest compound, best for qualifying, worst for races. We've got Bridgestone, very much a middle ground. They're good at both, really. And then we have Michelin, worst for qualifying, but very good in race trim. And you'll see that play out over these rounds. And you can see Piastri fading back another position there. Although to another car, I believe that is on the Bridgestone tyres, if I'm not mistaken, in Pierre Gasly for Fingal Motorsport. They've gone with the more balanced option there. As Lando Norris currently sitting in 7th. We look further up the road. Charles Rainford is feeling the pressure here from his teammate Carlos Sainz, keeping those two at bay at a relatively comfortable distance for now. Colin Turkington right on the tail of his teammate and in the slipstream as they head down into the chicane here. Will Turkington make a move here? No dramas needed for the West Sussex Racing team. These two, the factory BMW team, they've got a lot of power behind them. The most powerful car in the field, in fact, are these two right here, and it is Turkington who will move up into 2nd position. They are in an interesting spot and an interesting driver lineup as well. It's worth mentioning, if you don't recognise names, they're both British Touring Car Championship drivers. One former, one current. Turkington only recently out of the series, but a 4-time champion. Rainford currently in the series, both of whom most notably race with BMW, hence, I believe, the connection to West Sussex Racing and BMW. You may recognise the West Sussex Racing name. It's similar to one in real life. I don't know if you will recognise it or not. If you do, you do. As we have a battle on for P6 now, Norris making another spot up in this race through on Antonelli, now averaging out for a decent spot for the Nexus Racing team. That's 6th and 20th overall, which off the top of my head, which is something I shouldn't have promised to do, maths on the go, is going to be around about 13th, I believe. Overall for that team. So an average of 13th may well be good enough here. I would expect it would be, as we have Hulkenberg and Gasly side by side. I imagine a bit of contact there between Hulkenberg and Gasly. In fact, Gasly, a lot more to race for, fair to say, than Hulkenberg at the moment. Gasly is sort of carrying his team's hopes at the moment. Kirkwood at a P2, a P21 overall. Gasly in 8th at the moment. That will be around about, what, P15 overall at the moment on average for the Fingal Motorsport. That's where I imagine the cutoff's going to be sitting. So Gasly could well be on the bubble at the moment. Depends on how things go. Lewis Hamilton in 10th spot at the moment. His teammate also in this race, Sergio Perez. Even if he's down in 19th at the moment, that'll be averaging around 15th spot as well. So you can see what I mean there. There's a few teams that are on that sort of rough trajectory, as Antonelli's going to lose another spot into turn 1 here, and Antonelli's dreams of a win appear to be slipping away, and Adidas Racing appear not to be in contention now for that top 8 average finishing position. 8th and 32nd would not be enough, certainly, as we now see that Scott McLaughlin on the back of Paul Aron. Aron a little touch wide there. Vilgomez, his teammate in that first race, didn't have the best of races. Did have some damage early on. Scott McLaughlin has his teammate in this one, so he's feeling good at the moment, as the lower of the two cars in 12th means that their average finish is looking very good at the moment, around about 8th position, as Norris now is actually feeling some pressure from behind after some strong pace earlier, falling back just a tad here. Antonelli to the inside of Gasly and to the inside of Norris. Lovely double overtake from the Adidas Racing driver, who knows he has to make these moves stick, because if he wins this race, the average finish only ends up around about 16.5, and that's not really gonna cut it. I don't think it's gonna be tight. It's right, as I say, in that bubble, sort of 15th, 16th. That's where the bubble is, I feel. That's where you've got to be, and that might be enough if Antonelli wins the race, but he's got a long way to go and he's got a big gap to reel in here. Fernando Alonso for Monster Energy Ford going down the inside of the go-kart twin blade of Gabriel Bortoleto. Gets the move done as the curb at that chicane disappears again briefly. And again, we've got cars that are battling away here. Sergio Perez, good that we see him there in the Brawn GP. That's important there. That means that team is averaging around about 13th at the moment, I believe. So they are currently, again, on the bubble but in the mix. As Lando Norris repasses Antonelli for that 6th position, Norris will be hoping this time he can stay ahead of the Adidas Racing driver. Norris up into 6th spot as things stand now. Further down the field with Oscar Piastri coming in pressure from Paul Aaron down the inside here. Now this is important because we have the Panfera Autosport cars battling away. Again, another team that we expect to be in that mix for the final few qualification spots. As things stand, they are now 13th and 14th, so easy one to work out. 13.5 average finish for those two as things stand. Again, puts them right in the mix with a few other teams. It's looking good for them at the moment, though. It has to be said, every team that's got 2 cars in this race looks good. But here we have Fernando Alonso going down the inside of Pascal Wehrlein. That's not what they need to see. Alonso, nothing to lose, really. Not the best performance from Dixon in the outside the top 19 race. So Alonso needed to pull off a miracle here. It doesn't look like it's quite going to be able to happen to him, but he could still change the destiny of some other teams here. The Panfera Autosport car of Pascal Wehrlein now running in the 15th position. Then we've got the Muscle Moose entry. I believe that was of Jack Aitken making a move down the inside. 17th for him. Now his teammate overall 21st. As things stand, that's going to be running about in the 19th position, I believe. 22nd, sorry, in fact. So again, similar, but it's going to be perhaps on the wrong side of the border here. But at the front of the field, Carlos Sainz has driven faultlessly for Fast Formula Racing. BMW power in the back of that car, followed by 2 factory BMW powered cars there in the West Sussex Racing team. Colin Turkington has kept him honest, but it is going to be top of pre-season testing for Carlos Sainz. But the team that will be top is going to be West Sussex Racing, 2nd and 3rd. They will comfortably be the best average finishing team. 2.5 average, outstanding result from them. Charles Rainford, 3rd place, just ahead of Charles Leclerc. And now we await the news. Who is going to qualify for GPM1? Don't go anywhere. We're about to find out. This first one we knew already, we've said it already, and that is, of course, West Sussex Racing. They are top of the leaderboard from pre-season testing. An average finish of 2.5, and you know where they finished. They finished 2nd and 3rd. That is a very impressive performance from the team that are making factory BMW engines this season. They've got at least 2 customers off the top of my head, if not more, so they are doing very well for themselves at the moment. And, well, they go into this championship as the favourites. Top of pre-season testing. They're the ones to beat, it seems. But they crucially didn't actually win pre-season testing overall as an individual, as a driver anyway, because that goes to Carlos Sainz and Fast Formula Racing. They had an average finish of 5th overall from that one. Hulkenberg down in 11th at the end brings us to that result. They are running customer BMW engines, so a theme between those top 2 teams there. Both of them with a connection to BMW. And, well, good sign for Fast Formula Racing as well. They could be the closest contenders. We then have another customer team, this time for the Nexus Engineering / Chevrolet partnership that goes on there. Trackhouse Racing, 3rd best average finish. They have an average finish of 8th between their 2 drivers. We saw Leclerc up towards the front of the field. Of course, he started on pole position, so in terms of quali pace, they're looking very good. McLaughlin a little bit further back down the order. Another team on those Goodyear tyres, actually. So, top 3, actually, all on Goodyear tyres. Don't know if that's something to read into or not, but something I just noticed right there. But yeah, another strong performance from them. We now have another manufacturer team, and this is the manufacturer team of Nexus Engineering. Nexus Racing, we saw that stunning drive from George Russell in the outside top 19 race, and he maximised all he could. I mean, he dominated that one in the end. Really showed that the pace was there for that team. Lando Norris able to put in a similar performance in this one. Their average finishing overall in the end was of 13th position. So they are the 4th team locked in, and already we've got down to an average of 14th. So these averages are getting pretty high up there. Next up, Brawn GP, a 13th as well for them. Their 2 drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez, doing well, despite Perez picking up some damage in that event. Worth saying for these two. They had both cars in the top 19, and in the end, I think that was the big difference. Bridgestone tyres on their car, though, so interesting to see that. Nexus that we just saw, they Michelin, so they are one team that has gone in the other direction, interestingly. Next team to qualify in, it is Panfera Autosport with an average finishing position of 14th. Pascal Wehrlein and Oscar Piastri will be racing full-time in GPM1. This team, like Brawn GP, in fact, the two teams that are highest on average finishing position that do everything themselves. They build their own engine, they build their own chassis, they don't sell anything, they have no extra income. It's purely in-house. Stunning job from this team, and that bright purple will be quite noticeable, I imagine, on the starting grid for GPM1 this season, as the Land of the Free will also be appearing on the grid in this first season. Another customer BMW team, and it is, of course, Fingal Motorsport with their lineup of Pierre Gasly and Kyle Kirkwood. Strong drive from Kirkwood in the lower of the two races, coming home 21st, and Gasly backing that up to get a strong average finishing position of 14.5. There is only one spot left, though, and that final spot is going to go to Repsol Peugeot. They just do it. Carsten Hocevar threw his front wing at it, quite literally. But combined with Yuki Tsunoda, they managed to pull it off. The 8 teams that make it through into GPM1 full-time for the season, guaranteed, locked in. They don't have to worry. They're on the grid no matter what. They are West Sussex Racing, Fast Formula Racing, Trackhouse Racing, Nexus Racing, Brawn GP, Panfera Autosport, Fingal Motorsport, and Repsol Peugeot. What a lineup. Commiserations to the first team that misses out, and that is with a 19.5 average finish, Adidas Racing. And it's actually equal average finishing position for this and the next one. We're saying Peugeot as well with an average of 15. That ended up being the final cut-off team in the end there. Adidas did a decent job at Antonelli, but sadly the anchor that was Juan Pablo Montoya in race number in the top, outside of the top 19 race, proved to be too much. Muscle Moose Racing, sort of with the opposite issue. They were too middling. Both races, they were right around the middle of it. Sebastian Vettel coming home in 22nd overall, the podium in the outside the top 19 race. And sadly, Jack Aitken just couldn't quite get enough positions. They end up, again, with a 19.5 average finishing position between the two of them. So it's a decent jump of 4.5 if they wanted to try and get into the field. So it wasn't too close in the end, but among these teams, it's incredibly close. Leighton House, 20.5 average finishing position for Paul Aron and Rafael Villagomez. Villagomez, again, with issues in that opening race. Maybe if he hadn't had that drama early on, he could have been a little bit higher up, but 5.5 places behind. I think that destiny was going to be set regardless for that particular team. As we now move slightly on to the teams that struggled just that little bit more. Next up is going to be Monster Energy Ford, and they had a disappointing time. Scott Dixon, Fernando Alonso, vastly experienced driver lineup, incredible, and you have to imagine their development contribution is going to be massive, but it's going to need to be massive because they're going to be going through GPM2 this season. But do not doubt that Fernando Alonso, I'm sure, will be on the starting grid for many GPM1 races this season as well. Expect him to be one of the frontrunners at the front of the GPM2 championship. Average of 21.5 between their two drivers. Race pace in the end didn't quite make a big enough difference. Next up, MTV Racing, Kevin Estre and Ayumu Iwasa. As fancy and as colourful as their car may be, in the end, only a 23.5 average finishing position between their two drivers. Iwasa struggled in the top 19 race, whilst his teammate Estre struggled in the outside the top 19 race. So it was a combination of relatively poor results there. At least they had one car in each, and they are the last team. Actually, no, they're not quite the last team that I mentioned who did complete that feat of having one car in each. One team that didn't do that, Suzuki, we sort of knew their fate beforehand. At the end of that first race, we knew both of their cars not getting a 1-2. It was going to be extremely unlikely, because if they had had a 1-2, it would have been an average of 20.5, and that still would only have put them up 2 or 3 spots, and it wouldn't have been enough for the top 8. So in the end, that was a death sentence. Both cars qualifying poorly. Verstappen was where it went wrong. Poor qualifying for him. He was their star man, and he faltered. And that is unfortunate for that team. Gokairu Twin Blade Racing, they are the lowest team to have one entry in each race, and they are the penultimate team we'll talk about here. Sadly for them, they did just miss out. 24.5. Gabriel Bortoleto, though, another name. He was in the top 19. He's got some pace. Don't discount him in GPM2, and don't expect to never see him again on a GPM1 grid, because certainly he has some performance in him to do enough. And Pato Award, unfortunate for him, but certainly more to come from that team, I'm certain, as is the case for, sadly, the lowest average finishing position team, Canadian Racing. They had a bad start, sadly for them, in the sense that they had to go through both drivers in that first race. It was always going to be an uphill battle, but then they just had to keep fighting Carson Hocevar, who was using tactics which were unusual, to say the least. Very unfortunate for Alex Palou. They end up bottom of the leaderboard, which means they are sort of the lowest seeded team going into this championship, but I don't necessarily think that is a fair evaluation of them, as is the case for a few teams, even sort of half the grid, frankly. They're all so close. They all had their little bit of fortune and misfortune here and there. So it's going to be an incredible battle. I would be surprised if we don't see every single GPM2 team at least once over the 12 race season have a car on the grid for GPM1. It's going to be hard to get points in GPM1. That's always going to be a tough ask. It's such a competitive series. We saw the comparison of George Russell in the first race compared to Lando Norris in the top 19. How different a dominating drive from Russell in that first one turned into a relatively middling P6 for Norris. So it shows how competitive the front of the grid is going to be. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fascinating season to see how it all plays out. We have our 8 teams in at GPM1, and we have our 8 teams that are going to be chasing them all the while. West Sussex Racing, Fast Formula Racing, Trackhouse Racing, Nexus Racing, Brawn GP, Panfera Autosport, Fingal Motorsport, Repsol Peugeot are your 8 GPM1 teams. But don't forget, on every single GPM1 grid, there will be 3 spots available to the top 3 GPM2 teams, and they are Adidas Racing, Muscle Moose Racing Team Worldwide, Leighton House Racing, Monster Energy Ford, MTV Racing, Suzuki X-Star Racing Project, Gokai Twin Blade Racing, and Canadian Racing. Certainly, you have not heard the last from any of those teams. Expected the unexpected. Who knows what this season has in store for us. I hope to see you all in 2 weeks' time for the season opener in Australia. We're going down under, and I just cannot wait for the season to begin.